For 17 years, King Oyobio and Queen Iene ruled Eyob kingdom with wisdom and justice, yet their heart ached for a child. The people prayed and offered sacrifices, hoping the royal family would be blessed with an heir. Finally, their prayers were answered. A son was born, a boy named Egbe, whose arrival was celebrated across the kingdom with dancing, feasting, and thanksgiving. However, not everyone shared in the kingdom's joy. Ibok, the king's younger brother, had secretly harbored ambition for the throne. For years, he had prayed his brother should die without an heir, believing it would guarantee his rise to power. The throne would become his and his sons. Ekber's birth shattered that dream. With the prince's birth, Ibok's dark desire twisted into hatred and jealousy. Ibok began plotting to seize the crown. For 7 good months, he plotted and schemed. He gathered his secret supporters, whispering promises of power and wealth. Prince Egbe, a chubby, giggling baby of only 7 months, was the target of Ibok's hateful plan. One fateful evening, Ibok and his men attacked the palace. It was a bloody massacre. King Oyobio and the queen were killed. Every servant, man and woman, met the same cruel fate. Ibok's men searched high and low for the prince, their faces grim and determined. They wanted to wipe out the entire royal line. As the men ransacked the palace searching for the infant prince, they found nothing. Furious, Ibok dispatched warriors throughout the village with orders to kill the child if found. Unknown to Ibok, fate had intervened. Moments before the attack, Queen Iene, sensing unease, had instructed the prince's nanny to take him outside for fresh air. The nanny obeyed, cradling the baby in her arms as they wandered to the palace backyard. Suddenly, the sound of chaos erupted. The nanny panicked, spotted an old empty drum lying nearby. Acting on instinct, she placed Prince Egbe inside the drum and fled. The drum was usually used for storing grain, but had been empty for a long time. Inside the dark drum, little Egbe, instead of crying, began playing quietly with the pebbles and sand that had settled at the bottom. His silence, as though divinely inspired, saved his life. Despite the attackers' frantic search, they overlooked the drum. The villagers gathered at the palace in mourning. They wailed for their beloved king and queen, assuming the prince had also perished. None thought to check the forgotten drum. As night fell and the palace dispersed, a strong wind swept through the palace courtyard, causing the drum to tumble over. Prince Egbe, unharmed, crawled out of the drum. He started crawling away, as if guided by some unseen force. With a strength far beyond his tiny body, he made his way toward the dark forest. Deep within the forest, the cries of the child reaches the ears of a mother ape. Drawn by the sound, she emerged from the shadows and found the infant. She gently lifted Egbe into her arms, cradling him as if he were her own. Then she disappeared with the child into the forest depths, where her troop welcomed the strange new addition. The apes cared for Egbe as one of their own, feeding him and protecting him from predators. Back in Eyob Kingdom, the people buried and mourned their king and queen. Ibok took over the throne and ruled with cruelty. As the villagers sought answers to their plight, Etiko, an old priest, was inspired, and he prophesied, "The true heir of Ayub shall rise from the shadows, shielded by the forest and crowned by destiny. His reign will restore justice, and his enemies shall fall by his hand." Yet, the villagers didn't understand the prophecy and what it meant. Ekpe grew up surrounded by the wonders of the forest, nurtured by the care of Mother Ape and the devotion of the animals. He was no ordinary child. Nature itself seemed to bend to his knees. When the nights turned cold, snakes coiled around him to keep him warm. When hunger struck, birds brought him fruits and berries. For playmates, he had young lion cubs, and for guidance, the elder animals of the forest. Ekpe could communicate with every creature, from the smallest antelope to the mighty elephants. Among them all, his best friend was a playful baby elephant he named Zoo. Together, they roamed the forest and formed a bond deeper than words could explain. As Ekpe grew into a strong, agile teenager, his adventurous spirit led him further from his forest sanctuary. The older animals, his protectors and friends, voiced their concerns. They warned him of the dangers that lurked beyond the trees. The two-legged creatures, the humans who hunted for sport and showed little respect for the balance of nature. They described humans with fear in their eyes, recounting tales of brutality and slaughter. But Ekpe's adventurous spirit couldn't be tamed. One day, his wandering took him so far that he stumbled upon a small farm at the edge of the forest. There an old woman was working in her field. When she saw Ekpe, she paused, staring at the wild-looking boy who seemed both human and otherworldly. Her presence made him nervous, and he started to retreat. The old woman, however, was calm and kind. She smiled warmly and spoke in a soft voice. "Young boy, what are you doing here all alone?" Ekpe froze. He'd never heard a language like that. He wanted to run, but the old woman's gentle eyes and reassuring smile held him in place. Her gentle tone reassured Ekpe, even though he didn't understand her words. As she approached him, her eyes caught sight of the bracelet on his wrist, a royal bead that was unmistakable. It was a magical bracelet worn only by princes of Ayub Kingdom, a gift given at birth and never removed. The bead had grown with him, an unbreakable sign of his heritage. A gasp escaped her lips. "My prince!" she exclaimed, dropping to her knees in a gesture of reverence and relief. Though Ekpe didn't understand her words, he could see that she was happy. Tentatively, he allowed her to lead him back into the forest. When they arrived deep within the forest, Ekpe's animal friends were alarmed. A human had entered that sanctuary, and they felt betrayed. They surrounded the old woman, growling and preparing to attack. But Ekpe stepped forward and spoke in their language. "She is a friend," he assured them. "She means no harm." Reluctantly, the animals backed down, but they remained watchful. Over the next few days, the old woman, whose name was Nne, spent time with Ekpe in the forest. She taught him the human language and told him about his past. She spoke of King Oyobio and Queen Iyene, of their love for their people, and of the tragedy that had taken their lives. She told him about Ibok, who now ruled with cruelty, and about the suffering of the people. She revealed that Ekpe was the rightful heir to the throne, the one who could bring peace and restore balance in the land. Your kingdom needs you, my prince, Nne said earnestly. The people are suffering under Ibok's rule. They cry out for a savior, and that savior is you. Ekpe shared the news with his animal friends, fueled by outrage and a fierce loyalty to their young prince. The animals pledged to help him reclaim his birthright. But they made Ekpe promise that he would never abandon their friendship or treat animals cruelly when he became king. Ekpe placed his hand on Zo's trunk and said, I promise I will never forget what you all mean to me. With that, they began preparing for the mission. Meanwhile, Nne returned to the village to share the news of Prince Ekpe's existence and impending return with a few trusted elders. They could hardly believe their ears. The prince was alive. Their joy was immense, but they knew they had to be cautious. Ibok spies were everywhere, and any hint of rebellion could lead to disaster. They began to subtly prepare the ground for the prince's arrival, carefully laying the foundation for a peaceful revolution. A day was set. The prince and his unusual army would march to reclaim the throne. Hope had returned to Ayub kingdom, and with it, the promise of justice. Ever since Ibok seized the throne, the elders of Ayub had refused to acknowledge his rule. They never visited the palace and openly despised his reign. This isolation frustrated Ibok, but his pride kept him from addressing it. One day, a group of elders approached the palace, bowing low before King Ibok. We have come to submit to your rulership, your majesty, they said. We seek peace between the throne and the people. Ibok's heart swelled with pride. For years he had ruled through fear and force. But now, it seemed his authority was finally being accepted. The elders, sensing his delight, proposed a grand feast to celebrate the newfound unity. Invite all the villagers, they suggested. Let us eat and drink in your honor, and may the people see you as their true king. The idea was too tempting for Ibok to refuse. Little did he know, the elders were deceiving him. Their plan was to keep him and his warriors distracted, while Prince Ekpe and his animal army stormed the palace. King Ibok, insecure in his usurped power and desperate for validation and acceptance, fell for their deceit. The date for the feast was set, and the entire village was ordered to attend. It would be a feast to remember, and it was, but not for the reason Ibok anticipated. The day of the feast arrived, and the palace was filled with people. The villagers gathered nervously, their faces betraying the fear and unease they felt under Ibok's rule. The elders stood by, pretending to celebrate. King Ibok, draped in his finest royal robes, sat proudly on his throne, surrounded by guards who had been drinking and feasting all day. Then, a sound broke through the festivities, a deep rumbling tremor that shook the ground. Gasps spread through the crowd as an army of animals emerged from the forest, led by a young man seated on the back of a massive elephant. It was Prince Egbe, armed and ready for battle. Beside him marched lions, tigers, apes, giraffes, and other wild creatures, their eyes blazing with fury. The villagers screamed and scattered, unsure of what was happening. The guards, drunk and unprepared, grabbed their weapons, but it was too late. The animals charged into the palace, wreaking havoc. The elephants trampled the guards, while the lions and tigers tore through their ranks. Gorillas and chimpanzees, wielding spears and bows, fought with a precision that shocked the villagers. Yet, as chaotic as it seemed, the animals harmed no innocent villagers. They had been instructed to fight only the wicked king and his warriors. The battle was swift. The drunken guards stood no chance against the fury of the forest. One by one, they fell until none were left. The villagers watched in awe and terror, unable to believe what they were seeing. When King Ibok saw his army defeated, he tried to flee, but a lion leaped onto him, pinning him to the ground. His reign of terror ended as the beast tore him apart. With Ibok dead and his warriors defeated, the village erupted into cheers. The elders stepped forward, bowing before Prince Egbe. "The rightful king has returned," they proclaimed. The people wept with joy. They crowned Egbe as their king in a ceremony filled with song and dance. The newly crowned King Egbe made Zu, his loyal companion, his chief of staff, a symbol of the bond between humans and animals. Under Egbe's rule, the kingdom flourished. Humans and animals lived in harmony. Peace returned to Eyup, and the people rejoiced, knowing that they had a king who would protect them and their land. Thus, the prophecy was fulfilled. The boy raised by the forest became the savior of his people, and the kingdom of Eyup was reborn.